Hi, everyone. So excited to be here, especially with my good friend and colleague, Khan. If you don't know Khan, you should. This is a great opportunity. If you do, you know what you're in store for. Just a delightful, value added, enriched hour. And hopefully, we can provide enough quality takeaways to justify everyone's time and effort and resources. Chat's wide open. We depend on chat, always happy to hear who you are, where you're from, and any thoughts and suggestions you might have. Our key word today is employment engagement, and that's primarily because Khan is an expert in it, has written a couple books, and we'll spend some time going into that. So buckle up, and we're about to have a great time. And the first person to show up is Omar. Omar does so many wonderful things for so many people. I was working over the weekend to support him on 5 business questions for his next show. And so, welcome, Omar. Look forward to having you back on the show. We've got Terrence Stock, who I've known for a few years. Wonderful gentleman, still going strong. Happy to have you, Terrence. So, to kick off the show, Con, because employment engagement is so important and so dear to your heart, and you've spent so much time and thought in it, why don't you share a little bit about your books and, what you're really gathering from the experience and knowledge you've been able to attain?
Well, thank you. Good morning, Don. Good morning to everybody out there in our platforms, wherever you may be listening from us. Good morning to our audience here that's already reached out to us. Gary, Terrence, Omar, wonderful to see you all today. It's good to be here with you, my friend. What a way to start off the week. And that truly speaks to the heart of engagement, what we're trying to do. Engaging here with each other, engaging with an audience, whether they are here in our studio, approaching and kind of engaging with us here, or listening to us from wherever they are. So good morning to everybody. I'm hoping that we start off our week positively. And let's talk a little bit about engagement today and what we mean when we talk about employee engagement, or when we talk about engagement in general. I'd like to talk today, Don, in our conversation about how do we really win the hearts and minds of the people? How do we really capture that discretionary effort, that little bit extra that people want to do? Now, if you're looking at our situation right here, normally there's 3 of us. There's a 3-headed beast here on the camera. Normally that's the case. Now, today there's 2 of us. So we have to do that little bit extra, that little bit more engagement today to capture the interest of our audience and really bring that discussion and kind of to that level. So we've got our work cut out for us, my friend.
Well, I know we're up to it. And, I agree with you. 3 heads are better than 2, but 2 heads can get deeper where 3 heads get wider.
Yeah.
And we've got more time to drill down. And, engagement of any kind is vital for what people are doing, right? You want people that are focused, involved, connected with others. And I think that collaborative, collective effort really creates huge dividends, because it is so difficult to, first of all, bring people together, then have them interconnect with each other and work as a team.
Yeah.
But, once you got a team rolling, it's hard to stop it. And it's more fun when people are engaged, because go ahead, Con, please.
Yeah, and that's truly the high performing team that we're trying to get to. I mean, when I have conversations with people, we're not necessarily starting off the conversation with, "Hey, how can I get my people more engaged?" That's not the words that normally come out of their mouth. Even this past week, when I was working with a new client, and the conversation started off, you know what? We really want to improve our culture. We really want to improve the way people feel when they come to work. I mean, today is Monday morning. And for most people that are listening to us here, at least in the United States, it's a Monday morning. The question that we have is, how did you feel yesterday thinking about going to work? How did you feel? Did you feel excited about going in and tackling the work, about seeing your coworkers, about being in a place where you can be at your best? Or are you feeling that knot in your stomach where you're going, you know what? I really am not looking forward to it. I wish I could call in sick. How many sick days do I have left? And all of these things go through your head. That's an indicator about the culture, about the workplace environment, about how engaged people feel at work. And that's a big part of what I wrote about in the book. And my effort, my crusade with the book since it launched 60 days ago, has been truly about transforming workplaces, both for the benefit of the employers and the employees. And that's the magic, because true engagement in an environment, in a workplace environment, Don, is all about a win-win. You mentioned some words that I thought were right spot on. When we talk about employees that are truly dialed in, when they're involved, when they're excited about what they're doing, when they're connected to others and the goals of the team and the organization, that's truly the secret sauce, because they are excited to give. It comes from them. But at the same time, the direction is not just for them, but it's for the collective. And that makes all the difference in the world when you're talking about truly engaged people. And when you get enough of those people on your team, now you're turbocharging your workforce. Now you're really making that a competitive advantage for your team to be able to do well. Think about rowers in a boat. If everybody is not rowing in the same direction with the same passion and energy, you're really going to be just spinning in circles. You're not going to be getting anywhere. You're going to be knocking oars. You're going to be all over the place. It takes a lot to get a crew working together in the same direction just as passionately.
Yeah, absolutely. And, I'm really excited by the start we have, because just through the first couple conversations that we're sharing have created so many opportunities to really understand the dynamics of the workplace today.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's hard, to your point on Sunday, how do you feel about Monday? I couldn't wait for Mondays when I had my company, because nothing was going on usually on Saturdays or Sundays, And when you have something that's important, you want to get back to it. Fridays were typically my worst day because I had 2 days in between. I know that's the opposite. Some people pray for Fridays to come sooner. And on Mondays, there's an insecurity because of what's happening globally, what's happening with the internet. 20, 30 years ago, a person could just focus on their company, focus on their job, and the company could focus on their people. And there weren't a lot of gig workers, or weren't a lot of fractional people. People set the example that they were there 20 years, 25 years, waiting for their 30 years or their gold watch. And today, you're always looking over your shoulder. You're always looking at who's going to take your spot. Are you important? Who's going to buy your company and reorganize it? Is your supervisor going to be there for a long time? I mean, it's all these different questions that before you weren't as focused on external issues, which allowed people to focus more on the internal. And if you thought you're going to stay for a while and the people around you were going to stay for a while, it's easier to get more comfortable than where did that person go or what happened to them. And it's constant. At the same time, with dynamic change creates dynamic opportunity. So for the person who wants to get out front, wants to distinguish themselves, wants to be a leader, there's not a lot of people grappling for more responsibility or accountability. So, the more you give, the more your possibilities of getting. Giving doesn't mean you're going to get, but it is a ticket to it. And then people want to do the right thing by the right people. I actually saw an article today on Costco, and they've done really good with their employees. 58% of their people who were polled said even for a higher pay, they wouldn't leave. And 68% said they love going to work every day. But that comes at a cost. And now Costco is at a point where they can't continue to layer on more pay, more benefits in a more competitive environment. So at a certain point, you do kind of peak, and then you got to be more creative, more innovative. And I think to your subject matter, that's where companies come in with the intangibles, with culture, with environment, with flex time, with things that don't really relate directly to money, but relate to people's lifestyle or happiness or home life, that also encourages that. With that said, We've got 3 new comments from 3 new people. Why don't you see people in the streets of Athens at sunrise? Because dawn is tough on Greece. I don't know where you come up with this. Carrie comes up with a different joke about a different thing. I say you should be a comedian and share your humor with the world. Kelly says, good morning, y'all. Kelly's just great. I was just talking with Con earlier that we're doing a show on mental health on Thursday because it's Mental Health Awareness Week with Jason. So thank you, Kelly. Kelly does some amazing things. He has a show every Tuesday, The Awesome Journey with Christy Howard. If you haven't seen it, it's pretty interesting and it's real. And it kind of puts you at the front lines of what people are doing that you could only imagine. So thank you, Kelly. Dennis is here, our old hand. Finally, the internet got me connected to you two live. Great to be live. You bet. Great to have you live, Dennis, too. And then here we go with, must be Carrie again. And then we've got Linda Coleman, I haven't seen in a few days. Good morning. Glad to slow down and join you this morning. So happy to have you with us, Linda, as always. Christine Feedy had a celebration Saturday night, graduated with her MBA. Want to congratulate her and share that information. We're all in this together. And one person's success and achievement just motivates other people to be proud of their association with those people, but also motivates them to take those steps. So, Con, it's just a fabulous turnout early in the morning here. And it looks like we picked a subject that has some interest.
Well, it's engaging. Let's put it that way, Don. So yeah, what a great way for us to start the week with so much engagement from the people that are listening into us, that are watching us, and for our discussion. So I'm grateful to be able to talk about this. I need to take a moment, though, since we're talking about graduates, and give a big shout out to my own daughter who's graduating from the University of Colorado in Denver. She's finishing up this week. She's graduating this weekend, and kudos to her. She has been working hard. She's been engaged with her. She's passionate about what she does. And that's an example of what hard work and commitment can really get you to. She's graduating summa cum laude from there, and been on the dean's list most of the semesters that she's been there, and just kicking butt with that whole thing. So I'm so proud of her. It's always amazing. You want your kids to exceed you, and she is well on her way on exceeding whatever I could have done, my friend.
Isn't that the truth? And kudos to her, because what it does show is perseverance, the ability to work with and work through things, hang in there, and it's really who you become from your education, not just what you learn.
Right.
And it should set the tone for the rest of your career. And it's really nice to have children who you can be proud of. That you always wondered, did I do the right thing? And they do prove that you did. But more importantly, they're also a factor that motivates you, because my kids, I'm in awe of them. I truly am, of who they became, how they do what they do, the lives that they're leading. And it goes back to, how you raised them in a way, how you engaged them, probably more important than how you raised them, how you included them, how would you make them feel special, how would you make them feel wanted and loved. And I think a lot of these things transfer. So if you're in a family and it's a business family, or it's a social family, or it's a blood family, it's all about honoring people, not judging people, finding qualities and talents that only they have,
right,
and identifying those and rewarding those, because with everything that's good should come a celebration, right? Your daughter worked so hard, committed, and sacrificed, where maybe friends who didn't or who didn't want to, but it does set the tone. So, that's really important. Dennis comes back with, agree, it is really interesting today, like every day at your show, and great way to start a strong week. Thanks. Well, thank you, Dennis, because I look up to Dennis. Anybody who is able to stay 49 years in the same game and still be a player, still be a winner, because it's not just an accolade you put on the wall. It's something you have to earn every day with your customers, with your employees, and with yourself. And, the funny thing is, looking back, time flies. 49 years seems like a lifetime. And in some ways, you close your eyes and you see yourself your first day at work. So I think that's one thing that Con brings, and so many people on the show brings, is an optimism, a positive attitude. And that goes a long way when you're trying to build culture, when you're trying to engage people, is how welcoming, how engaging are you? And how engaging is the company? Con, with your books, what stands out as a key factor in engagement and bringing more value to the workplace?
Well, it's been interesting, Don, because ever since the last few years have not been easy. I mean, we've transitioned out of a very, very difficult situation, the pandemic, and the other crises that surrounded it, the financial crisis, the socioeconomic issues, the uprisings out in the streets, people getting frustrated with things, the general, unsettlement that we experienced during those years, and now going into a new environment where everybody is trying to move forward from that. It really brings to light the effort that most leaders that I spoke to wanted to find a way. Yes, they wanted to keep their business doors open, but at the end of the day, a big part of their concern was, how do I make sure that my people are okay, physically, mentally, emotionally? How do I make sure that they're okay? So the first book was a lot about how do we make sure that people are able to emotionally deal with a lot of this uprising, this change, the crises. That's why it's called 7 Keys to Navigating a Crisis. And then most recently, in this evolved state that we're in right now, that concern hasn't gone away. I mean, leaders need to evolve with the times. I call this not the new normal, but the next normal. And I coined that phrase back in the days with the book because change is inevitable. And change is going to keep happening no matter what. So we're just dealing with the next reality, the next normal that we're getting used to. And then there'll be another next normal and another next normal after that. Well, in the current phase of what we're dealing with, one of the pieces that drives engagement is the need that people have to feel valued. When you're talking about how Costco reacted to its employees and how it treats them, when you talk about that sense of family in a workplace, the choices that we made from that perspective, it's important to understand that all we're trying to do is really help people feel valued, show them that we appreciate them, because people that are appreciated will always do more than what's expected of them. And that's part of what really stimulates engagement and gets people going. We all have that need. It's not just an employee need. It's a human need that we have. When we go out and we look at the wonderful comments that our audience has added in there, we feel that they've taken the time for these kind words to give. And time, attention, is one of the things that shows that you value somebody. So they're in their way showing that they value us and what we bring to the table. Their comments, their gift of their words is also really something that illustrates how much we value them when we acknowledge those comments and what they're doing. So that's a big part of it. Giving your time and attention to somebody shows that you value them. Another thing is when you can create a safe environment. On the show here, we've created a safe environment where people can express themselves in a respectful and civil way. So they can say what's important to them, what's on their mind. All of the shows that stem from your show, Don, Kelly's show, for example, creates an environment where she creates a safe space along with Christy for people that have experienced a lot of trauma in their life, that have seen a lot of hardships, to be able to really share their experiences, hopefully to help other people. So she does an amazing job with that, creating that safe space. I mean, many of the clients that I work with are in industries such as construction, for example, or healthcare, where the physical safety of things, protecting people, their well-being, is key. But beyond that, most of the environments that we have, no matter what industry you're in, creating a safe environment where people can emotionally feel safe, beyond the physical piece, it's paramount. If people don't feel psychologically safe, how are they going to communicate? How are they going to share with you truly what they feel and what's going on? How are they going to point out the bad news that they need to share with you, for example, if they're afraid of repercussions? How are they going to share a new idea that they want to bring forward when it's questionable and they feel like they're going to be chastised. So safety is paramount. Respect is another one, Don. When we talk about respect, we should be respecting and being civil to each other just because we're shared human beings sharing the space together. We're co-workers, we're colleagues, we're people that meet each other in the street. We should be showing respect to each other because that speaks more about us than it does about anybody else. But beyond the owed respect or the respect that we owe each other, there is the earned respect. And we should be recognizing the good things that people do on our team when they go above and beyond, seeing the positives that they bring to the table. And we're recognizing those and giving people the appropriate level of appreciation from that. So that's key. So safety, respect. We talked about time and attention from that piece. Another one is gratitude. You talked about it as well. When we express our gratitude, that's a powerful thing. Not only does it reinforce the behaviors that we want to see in others, but it also makes us feel good because we are now putting ourselves in a positive frame of mind. We can talk about this. We can do an episode just on this, Don, when we talked about gratitude and kindness, because at the end of the day, what it does is it releases a dose of positivity, as I call it, from that piece. And dose is an acronym. It releases dopamine, oxytocin, serotonin, and endorphins. Dose, D-O-S-E. So when you look at that, when you are in a state of gratitude, you can't be negative because it puts you in a certain frame of mind. It releases these chemicals in your body, which uplift your spirit, that put you in a positive frame of mind. So gratitude is good both for the receiver, but also for the giver. Because when you are in that frame of mind, you are yourself positive from that piece. So that and appreciation, again, keep going with that piece. All of these things show how much we value people, Don. And I value your friendship, I value your support, and I value the opportunity of being here sitting in the co-pilot seat next to you, my brother.
Well, you said enough in those few minutes that would cover most regular shows for the whole show without the side shows that possibly come. And you're absolutely right. What's good for you is good for people like you. And sometimes you forget how valuable you are until someone identifies it and recognizes you. And it could be through a comment, it could be through anything, but you feel a little bit happier with yourself that it's being seen, it's being appreciated, it's being verbalized. And, recognition goes so far, especially if, there's a saying, uh, compliment in front of a lot of people, criticize only with the person, right? Because as you see other people treat other people around you, that's how you feel you're going to be treated.
Mm-hmm.
And you want to be recognized. You want to be identified in a good way. And you're so right. Civility, respect, honor has been pushed aside by the crowd, by the constant social media pounding. Some people don't even know who they are. They're just part of a group that they joined and follow blindly. And there's a lot of courage and bravery that's false when you're following the crowd. But it's the one-on-one, it's the handshake, the pat on the back, I really appreciate you for this. And it only takes a few seconds, only takes a few words. And I wonder why people are so hesitant who say things like "I love you" like only when there's a emergency or when there's something significant, instead of understanding everybody's here just for the moment. And you don't want to look back with regrets and say, I should have said that, I should have called that person, I should have made that visit, I should have given something a little bit more freely of myself. And you're right, nobody's an island onto themselves.
No.
Without family, without community, that's the only thing that matters, because that's what will be there, hopefully, no matter what else isn't.
Yeah.
Money comes and goes, fame is fleeting, but connectiveness, being really appreciated, being involved, being invited to be involved. And I think companies have that opportunity because it is an investment in an investment. When you're going to pay people so much, when you're going to provide so much support, why not bring in that human factor?
Yeah.
Why not make somebody know that they're appreciated, loved? And maybe that's a reason why people don't leave,
Yeah.
is they found a home, Con.
Yeah, and that's, I see that every day, and we all at a heart of it. I mean, you hit on the second driver of engagement, which is the need to feel connected. I mean, for all of us as human beings, we're tribal creatures. We want to belong. We want to be part of something bigger than ourselves. That gives us a sense of safety, a sense of identity in so many ways. That's why we wear our colors, whether it's a sports team that we follow, our alma mater, our neighborhood watch, whatever it is. I mean, I coach kids. That's my ministry. I give back by working with young kids, and I teach the life skills through soccer. And so I watch the kids when they put on their jerseys for the first time and they look around and they see that they have friends and other people around them that are wearing the same colors, and they feel part of something special and they feel part of something unique. And when you can capture that magic and you can show people how they are part of something special, they're connected, they can reach their goals by helping their team reach their goals. That's a pretty special place to be. And that's the secret sauce of really building a good team together. When you're able to create a shared vision and a set of values that you can all live by, that guide that respect and civility that we talked about. When everybody knows that, hey, we're going that way, that's where our goal is, that's where we're going to go and score. That's a big part of it. When you can sit down together and everybody understands their role on the team. Okay, you are playing this role, you're playing that role. You need to stop the other team from getting there. You need to get the ball to this person. You need to get it up the field. We need to get it to our star striker up there so she can score the goal. These are the things that kids need and people need, so they understand that I play a big part in this. I may be different than you, but I play a big part. That's why in some cases, you know what, here's your salesperson that's going to go out and kind of win that new customer, or the marketing person. Here's the person that's part of your operations team. Here's the person that handles the invoices. Here's the person that handles that. They're all members of your team. Show them how the connection works and how their part plays, how that contributes in different ways. So we all come together and we can connect that way. And even that brings us to the third driver, Don, where we look at it and say, okay, I want to know that what I'm doing makes a difference. I want to know that I can contribute in meaningful ways, that I am productive. None of us wants to waste time. Time is a huge resource and an invaluable resource we don't have enough of, and we can't get it back. So I want to know that the time that I'm spending on something is time well spent. So show me that what I'm doing here now has a ripple effect or has a direct connection, a line of sight to something else. That is incredibly powerful. Whether it's your kid at home and you're telling them, you know what, hey, when you do this, these are the ripple effects of that. Or you find an employee who's struggling to find purpose in what they're doing. You say, look, you really don't see the difference that your contribution is making. Let me show you. And you take the time to really show them how something that seems simple, every day, mundane even, how much of a difference that makes, directly or indirectly, to the rest of the team. It's like looking at that team photo that we took that one day that we sat down together. The first thing I'm going to do as a human being is I'm going to look where I am. Where do I fit into this picture? And that's ultimately what we want to do. Understand, where do we fit into this picture so I can connect with others around me and I know that what I'm doing is making a difference, Don. So those are number 2 and number 3 of our 4 drivers that we deal with.
Yeah, that's so important what you're saying. And, although you're working with a team or a collective, everybody's also still an individual. And you have to know what that individual gets turned on by, gets turned off by. It's not one size fits all. And the only way you can know that is to have a relationship with that person. And that's why the dinners after the game are so important.
Mm-hmm.
That's why getting people together for things outside of the game. Sometimes it's even a charitable thing where everybody decides we're going to help Habitat for Humanity this weekend. And some people respond to different things. Some people need to have their hand held.
Mhm.
Other people need a little bit more direct approach. But I also think self-education is the best education, because I know with kids growing up, at a certain point, you say, well, the only way you're going to appreciate this is to experience it. You're not going to take my word for it. Or you think, without saying so, you know better, even though you have nothing to base it on.
Mhm.
Well, go out and do it. Because I always felt lessons learned young are cheaper, but they last longer.
I love that.
If you lost your last dollar gambling, that dollar may be worth $1 million in the future that you didn't, and it hurts.
Yeah.
And also, if someone says, well, then if you're going to do it, do it. Do it as best you can, be as safe as you can, and all you can do is pray in a way.
Mhm.
But, it also is something to give people license, give them some freedom, give them some room, make them accountable. And it's always not what you did, but what did you learn from what you did? And
Yeah.
what is that going to allow you to do next? And at a certain point, I found either you're going to get people asking for permission or forgiveness,
Mhm.
right? And I'd
Right.
rather be involved in front of something than find out later on only because someone didn't trust or feel that if they were to bring it up, you're not going to let them.
Mm.
So all of a sudden someone's sleeping at somebody's house that they're really not sleeping at. I think the other thing people don't always appreciate, you were exactly where they were at one time, and know the routines and know the shortcuts. And I think it's just people coming together, say, I know where you're coming from. I've been there, or I know what you're about to do, whether you say so or not. All I can do is wish you safety and good luck. And at the same time, you got to ask yourself, how many times have you been wrong?
Mm.
Right? Half of the time, probably. But when I did something or thought something, I thought it was going to be right. So, I think sharing that responsibility, involving people, what would your game plan be before we make up the total game plan?
Right.
It's also knowing that people have lives and people have families, and people go home to those lives and families. And there's nothing better than to tell your spouse, well, Mr. Allen brought me up in front of a crowd, congratulated me, gave me a little certificate, maybe a Starbucks card. My daughter, who worked with me for 8 years, she was in charge of HR, and she just loved going out and getting a bunch of Starbucks cards, $5, $10, and just walking around saying thank you for staying late last night, and that was kind of an honor, but also something that was generous. And people can say, they didn't have to do that. It wasn't in my contract. It wasn't in my understanding. But they decided to give me an extra bonus or give me a few extra days off because of some good behavior, because it reinforces that.
Mhm.
There is a carrot and stick to everything. I've never been a good stick person, because not if, I mean, at the end, it seems like a stick if there's a separation. But, during the process, you have to take more than your share of responsibility. We've got a huge comment here and a couple other before it.
Mhm.
So let me bring some of these up. Kelly, thanks you very much for your kind words, Con. Kelly's such a wonderful example of generosity and service to others, and she continues to prove that over time. Dennis says, agree, safe and saves adds up to our growth. Agree to be a pro to appropriate, help to create value. Linda comes back with, connectiveness is true. Even issues getting to stay connected here. Been losing you. Great discussion and encouraging for others to know how to help others.
Mm.
It can be in life, family, group, club, and community of friends, work, job, all levels. Dennis comes back with, agree is a great investment to invest in others. Thanks for reminding us the importance of be on a roll to productivity. Stay on our important role. Alan is here. Alan says, I'm clearing a 50-year-old bed of ferns in my friend's yard, who I truly appreciate for rescuing me from homelessness. I'm a unique individual who desires to contribute, be recognized, rewarded, and respected. My biggest problem is, how do I transform Let me see. From the me to we. Incredibly, I have intellectual property. Pirate has changed the world in transportations. I have 2 campaigns to make a bigger impact for first through fifth world countries by eliminating traffic congestion. I'm redesigning my website to accept. Well, you're doing stuff. I'll say that. I don't know exactly the detail to it, but when one door closes, another door opens. The end of something is the beginning of something else. And in today's world, making those transitions, pivoting, and being more relevant, it's just like reading books. Sometimes you're into certain types, but you read enough of those, and then you want to start reading books that are a little different. Life is the same way. Things that get you to where you are may not be the things that take you to where you want to go. And that's where a little bit of reflection, a little bit of review, but more importantly, putting your heads together with people who are neutral, who don't have any skin in your game, can be as direct and hopefully as friendly and civil as possible. And they're not always right? But when you can take a poll of polls and talk to 3, 4, 5 people, maybe from different directions, and people you trust and feel safe with, eventually you'll come up with a composite that now helps you make up your mind, because the key to commitment is belief in what you're committing to.
Right.
If you're passionate about it, if you just say, I do it for free. How many ball players, it might be a little bit of an overstatement, making 30, 40 million a year, are going to say, I do it for free. I guess if everybody else was doing it for free and they had a way to pay their bills, they might. But there is something to passion. There's something to enjoy the moment you're in and what you're doing. And I think Mondays come a lot easier if you have something really exciting to look forward to. And if you don't, it's exciting to have a team of players who do, because maybe it's that person's chance this week to innovate, get people moving. And everybody, has to kind of shore situations for other people and be supportive. So, and then Alan says, help me be part of we. Well, it's learning and it's paying your dues as far as education, and integrating means deserving, right? You got to do enough for people to see you. You got to do it consistently enough to know it's not a one-trick pony. And you got to give them a reason to say, you make my life better for being in it.
Yeah.
There's a lot of people in organizations that will never be a star in their own right, but they're supportive to making other people stars, to enjoying that. It's really the goodness in people that over time shines. It's not the fast, strong, who are gone in a minute, don't last. And I think that's so important. Here's one that says, but your show sticks with and helps us. And then teenagers are the biggest influencers when it comes to transportation issues for the family. Well, they're the ones who are coming up, and I think that brings a great point, is you got to know your position. And, when you're young, you're the one who's drawing from everybody, receiving the support, allowing yourself to be who you are. As you get older, you now become the parent and are having to be the provider and the guide. And then as you get one more step over, you got to figure how irrelevancy fits with you, because we're older people. We're always a place of honor, in earlier generations. They were revered for their experience, for their wisdom, but most important for their sacrifice, because they kept the family together. They kept the family fed. They took care of stuff.
Yeah.
And now, they're just another person on the side. And age is something that's a matter of your mind, but people are getting more obsolete earlier in their career and in their age than ever before. And I think that's something to be conscious of, is when you do have that opportunity, seize it. There's more people that regret things they didn't do than things they did do. And I think that's valuable. Well, Linda comes back with some big ones. I missed you for some meetings. I'm able to attend on awareness of human travel. Also, a women to women circle to learn and know options and things for people needing assistance, helping me be more aware. And awareness is key because it gives you reference. Being an advocate, willing to learn, having struggles. Everybody goes through the same thing at different times in different ways. And I think that's another thing that's so important is empathy, is being charitable, getting out of the workplace for a minute, even if you're in the workplace, and forgetting about the money. But there's a person there who needs help. And why not be supportive? Why not do something a little bit extra? It never hurts. So, Con, we've got a great, one thing that I can tell when people are typing away and making these long statements or comments, they really are listening. And not only that, but they're contributing. And I think that's a key, whether it's a sports team or a work team, is everybody doing their fair share? There's a lot of teams where there's players who never play.
Yeah.
Practice, they suit up, especially if it's a big game. But they're cheering their fellow teammates on. They're excited for everybody, and they're just happy to wear the uniform, and they're just happy to have that connection. Alan has another comment. I sent my 3 genius sons to private preschool. I'm so proud of their accomplishment. Talk about commitments to excellence. I would never, ever be a weekend dad to my sons. Well, what I learned, and I always fortunately put family first, because that was where I saw the long-term investment coming back. And the last thing you want to be is that follow that song, Cats in the Cradle, which was a famous song about a father who always wanted to do something with their kids, but it was always something else that came up. And what they found out was when their kids became them, they didn't have time for them. And what a loss that is. Terrence says, I always concerned that if I don't stay busy learning, I'll start getting busy dying. And, and that's a good point, Terrence, because you create your own future by what you do every day towards your future. And if you're learning, growing, there's been studies where people who weren't given much time, and all of a sudden their daughter was getting married, they had a kid coming up, they found the time to hang in there long enough. So mind over matter does work. Dennis says, agree, the people type are the happy type to share and care. Well, it's stepping out of your shell. It's so easy to stay in the shadows, be unseen, be unheard. It's very safe. But safety, there is no safety. Time waits for no one. The world's going to keep spinning whether you want to participate or not. So why not get out front? You can always back up. So it's easy to say, it's not always easy to do. Con, one thing that's so creative about what you do is every day, every organization, every individual in organization is unique.
And they are, Don, and they bring their own special gifts and circumstances. And, just listening to you and reading their comments and hearing about people's perspectives on this, there's so much to unpack there. And I'm going to try in the time that we have left to kind of bring some of these, stitch them together, if you will, kind of pull some of those thoughts together. First and foremost, when we talk about, the passion that people have, you talked about the multimillionaires that are ball players out there and whether they would do something for free, even though they said it. You only have to look at a group of volunteers, people that are passionate about something, and they come together and they volunteer their time and their energy and their resources to be able to, contribute in a certain way. You see that passion. When we talk about, for example, the fact that, busy learning rather than busy dying from that perspective, that is something that Terrence brought to the table. And I don't know if Terrence read the book or not, but that's the fourth driver that we talk about, the need that we have to continue to learn and grow. And how do we support that need? Because the difference between, a river and a swamp is that movement, is that continuous, perpetual movement. When we stagnate, it really is not a pretty sight. we do not get to that point. We need to kind of allow our flow to happen and continue to grow and have that growth mindset as we continue to move forward, that forward motion that we want to bring, that energy that we want to bring forward. So that's important. And when we have Dennis with his humor and his beautiful touches on that and his play on words, that just lightens the mood for all of us. And then finally, the points that you were making and the points that Alan was trying to bring about the me to we, it brings up my memory of a beautiful African proverb. And it basically says, if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together.
Mm-hmm.
And there is power in the collective. It might not always be the most efficient way because you're going to have to deal with different people and their needs and what they want. But over time, you can go a lot further when you're working together, when you collaborate, when you support each other, when you have people around you that are moving in the same direction you are. It might be a little bit slower, but guess what? You're going to go a lot further together. You're going to be able to move together from that perspective. So that's a big part of what we want to be able to do. So let's make sure that people feel valued. Let's make sure that people feel connected. Let's make sure that people feel like they can contribute and be productive. And let's make sure that people feel supported so they can continue to learn and grow, whether it's through shows like this, Don, or the exchanges that they have with other people or on the job. There's learning moments everywhere.
Absolutely. And, there's not a show that I'm not part of that I don't learn at least as much from my co-host. Right? So the key is where do you get value, again, coming back to time, effort, resources that justifies it. And this is multi-layer because you get some direct benefit from your co-host. You get collateral benefit from your audience. You get continued benefit from the future people who will see this and benefit from it. So if you can get a triple play out of something, that gives you a lot more meat to the bone. And, especially when it makes you think about things you might have stopped thinking about or revisit decisions you made that you had as much information as you could get. But now all of a sudden someone shined a new light on it. The other, I think, key element that's so important is consistency. They even say, talking about parenting, it doesn't really matter to some degree what your style is as long as you stay with it. What people don't like is confusion. I did something, I got punished. I did the same thing, I got rewarded. I don't know what to do anymore because it's usually at the whim or the attitude of whoever I'm dealing with, and that doesn't make you feel secure. People just want to know, what is it? If you just tell me, I may be able to do it, I may not, but at least I understand what you're looking for. But if you're getting vague and you don't have time to listen, and there are some people, and everybody has to be on guard, that it's so much easier to say things. It's so much easier to give direction and talk. But if someone says, no one cares what I have to say, or when I say something, it doesn't stick, well, I'll just be here until I don't have to. And now people are doing things out of necessity instead of out of choice. They go into companies and they don't respect that. Don't talk about that. Don't bring that up. The boss is sensitive. They don't like criticism. They don't, they want what they want the way they want it. And if you're willing to lose yourself and make accommodations and compromises with possibly your principles or your beliefs, you're going to get empty at the end and you're going to be left empty. And I think that's really, everybody's there and should have a purpose. And sometimes, and it's not easy, people take situations because it's the best that's available, but they understand that. If you got to feed your family and you got to go to McDonald's for whatever they're paying, it's better than sitting home. It's not gonna hurt you. And at the end of the day, you did something, you made a few bucks, but you're also planning your next move. And it's so much easier to have something that's safe, a little gives you some security, knowing this isn't going to be my life. And then you don't feel that bad because, the means justify the ends. So I think that's so vital. But we have the benefit of experience. We have the benefit of time. So, and it's not what we think, it's what we've learned and what we've experienced that works to say this is the real world. And this is how you can get real with yourself, real with the people, and be present. So many people show up at work and their mind's somewhere else. They're in a meeting they don't really care about. They're in a family gathering that they can't wait to get out of,
Mm.
and it shows that. And I think you got to look yourself in the mirror and say, how am I going to be seen where I'm going today? And is that
Yeah.
going to bring value to who I'm going to be with? And is it going to be valuable for me? And I know, I think Steve Jobs, his biggest thing was saying no. And it's not easy when you have resources, when you can't say we can't afford it or we can't do it. But there's that discipline to say we can't move beyond this point at this time. We can't do these things because once you open up that Pandora's box, it's hard to put it back in. So, this has been fascinating. It's funny how we just started with employee engagement. It's like lighting a fire and then seeing how you can put more logs on it to make it bigger, better, and spreading that fire to other people's imagination. And that leverage of 20 people here thinking together, talking together, when this is over, in some ways, it just begins for those people.
Yeah.
Hopefully, what begins is I'm not going to put it off anymore. Today's the day. I'm going to take action. I'm going to get in the game, or I'm tired of thinking about it. I'm tired of worrying about it. Fear goes away when action shows up in most cases
Yeah.
because now you're doing something. You're not hiding. You're not afraid. Uh, what's your thoughts on the balance between caution and extra activity? And people are people, and that's the good thing.
Well, it's funny because a lot of what you're describing now, again, brings me back to the first book where we're talking about essentially these 7 keys to are really a way not just to handle crises and sudden change, but it's a roadmap to building resilience and really being able to build that strength. And it's step by step, one building block builds on the other, one step in front of the other, and really being able to go. But as I think through those important points, Don, I mean, it starts with, first of all, reflection. You said self-care, really understanding yourself. So many of us as leaders, as leaders in our businesses, in our communities, in our families, we try to do our best. But in our efforts to really take care of everybody else, most of the time we forget to pull up a chair at the table that we're serving for ourselves and really making sure that we are able to put our mask on as well before we start helping everybody else. I mean, how are you going to truly reach out and pick somebody else up, help somebody else when you're not on solid footing yourself? And so many times we give until the point of exhaustion, and then we can't have anything else to give. We're just saturated. We're just at the point where you cannot pour from an empty cup anymore. And so it starts, I mean, any journey like that we're talking about, whether it's resilience or helping with, mental health issues or whatever the case might be, it starts with self-care. And then it grows into awareness. You talked about reflection throughout the day today. You talked about we need to reflect back on our activities, on where we've been, where we're going, what are we feeling. So reflection, awareness is key, mindfulness from that perspective. And then the flexibility to be able to adapt. In the military, we used to say, improvise, adapt, and overcome. It's a saying that exists in the Marines and most of the armed services because it is true. We make plans, but you know what? What was it? Was it Mike Tyson that said everybody's got a plan until they get smacked in the face? And then that goes out the window. So you have to be able to be nimble enough to adapt to the environment that you're dealing with, the circumstances. And then plan. Risk management starts well before you encounter the problem. You need to be able to plan for the what ifs in your situation. And then once you have a plan, execute. Remember when you said doubt, all the problems go out the window, because when you're in the midst and the throes of change, one of the best ways to take control of a situation is to take action. And not just take action, but have a sense of optimism. So positive attitude, that dose that we talked about, we get from that piece, the positive attitude, release those endorphins, the dopamine, the oxytocin, the serotonin, everything that goes with it, the dose of positive attitude. And then ultimately the kindness. You start the journey of resilience with kindness to yourself, and you end that as your cup becomes fuller to be able to give kindness to the world. And that, my friend, are those 7 keys that I talk about in the first book, and part of what I'm hoping to be able to bring people through this journey. We have to acknowledge that this is Mental Health Awareness Month. May is a powerful month from that. And many of our friends out there already know this. They talk about it. They're contributing in their own ways. But part of what I'm doing with my team is basically we have a 7-day challenge that's launching on the 24th of this month, just before Memorial Day weekend, going into that and giving people the opportunity to reflect not just and remember those that have gone before us, but the lessons that they've taught us, and dealing with whatever pain, whatever lessons that we've taken from their losses and their contributions, their sacrifices, to be able to take forward to a better place. So I'm hoping that, I'll add it in the comments later on, a link for us. It's going to be an open, free, complimentary challenge, 7 days, 10 minutes a day. Just jump in and join us and really be able to participate in a way that's going to take you through all of those steps. The beautiful thing is that when I did the work in preparation for this program, Don, I did a lot of that work back in my homeland of Greece. And so over 7 days, I explored the 7 keys in 7 landmark locations throughout Greece, places that people have read about if they haven't traveled to, but places that I think will stimulate a lot of wonderful conversations and a lot of elevate how people feel about things.
Well, that sounds so great. And the reason is because it continues to demonstrate your generosity, your ability to be inclusive, to attract people, even though there's no financial gain directly to it. It's a great projection. And the other thing I would say is, Ben Franklin had a saying, the best way to have money is to save money. And so many people, and I think the pandemic demonstrated how many people left the workplace because they had to, or for whatever reason. And all of a sudden they decided, well, if I don't need daycare, if I don't need the second car, if I don't need the cleaning bill, I could be home with my family, raising my kids like people used to. And we don't have all the frills, possibly. We're not keeping up with the Joneses. But the less you need, the more choices you have towards what you can do. How many people say, I'd love to do that, but I can't afford it. I'd love to be a substitute teacher and help kids, and but for $80 a day or whatever the pay is, it doesn't justify it. Well, maybe if you're sacrificing your dreams and your passion because you got a new BMW that's $800 a month, and you've got all these extra activities, peace of mind goes so far. The book I was reading, The Algebra of Wealth, says to be independent, financially independent, your passive income has to be what your burn rate is, right? So if you're picking up $6,000 a month for whatever, retirement, dividends, rents, and your expenses are less than that, you don't have to work anymore, right? And that puts you and most people who are workers never stop working. They don't say, as soon as I get this, because if they're passionate, and the other thing, if you're not under the gun, if you're not getting squeezed, you can be more yourself. Because if someone doesn't like you, or you don't like the situation you're in, you got the freedom to move. But if you said, hey, there's no way I can quit my job, because without it, my family won't have all the benefits I provided for them. So it's a two-sided coin. And also, what makes the people around you proud of you? And sometimes making that tough decision is the right decision, because everybody's looking at you and saying, hey, now it's your turn. you're in a position, everybody's a hero until they have to go to war. And then they got to get real honest. And I've had my family look at me and they knew I was in a critical situation of making a decision. And they were wondering where my North Star was, what my moral compass was. And I wasn't going to go against everything I taught, everything I tried to instill in others, and be the opposite. So there's so many elements, but I think that's what lends itself to reading Kon's book, to getting to know the people in the audience. Is I loved your comment. I'd like to learn more. I see you're interested in something. I'd like to talk about it. That's where you really move, is through your networking, because it's very risk-free, cost-free, and you're doing something. If you look at the rest of the day today and you have nothing scheduled and nothing you want to do, whose fault is that? How many things could you get done? And it could be just cleaning the house. The last thing I do is sit around and think about what you're not doing, what you can't do, what nobody wants you to do. And that loop will paralyze you. And once you start your feet moving, you start cleaning something up, doing something, volunteering, going to a community meeting, whatever it takes, you're in the game. So with that, we got a few smaller comments. Thanks, guys, for a great morning start to my week. Alan has looked like he's been up and down and all around. I've experienced windfalls. My wife spent it. Well, nothing's meant to last forever. You can't take it with you, but at the same time, you live, you learn, you celebrate whatever it is, because, I was with someone yesterday and just understand the miracle of life. How difficult is it just to be born? Just to have a world that you can live in, and more importantly, or as important, a country that supports innovation, gives freedoms to people. And I think we can never forget about things that a lot of people don't have and we're taken for granted, because a lot of things are very, very delicate and, move either way. And I think that's where, being able to go one-on-one with each other, to be peer supporting, makes so much difference, because organizations and the government is too busy focused on what they're doing to really have the time and attention to the person you get to know as well as anybody else. So Kon, I got to congratulate you on a stellar performance today, and I know it comes so natural. And final thoughts and words for this just great audience.
Well, I think if you want to be trusted by others, be trustworthy. If you want to engage others, be engaged in what they're doing. I mean, give what you want to receive. Become that change, as Gandhi used to say, that you want to see in the world. And for many of our audience, I can see it from their comments, from their actions, the ones that I know, they are going out and they are passionately engaging about what really matters to them. So from that perspective, I encourage people, go out, find what moves you, and get more people on board. Start that movement from there, from your actions, and win their hearts and minds.
I couldn't have said it better. And with that said, I want to welcome everybody. If you can come back in 23 hours, we got Beverly Glazer, who's just one of the rising stars and always continues to impress. And also she has a lady, Helena, who's coming on tomorrow, just wonderful lady. I had a chance to talk to her. Actually, Beverly recommended, and she's in Spain in the most beautiful place, had a Zoom call, and I thought it was one of those background pictures, and it really wasn't. It was just unbelievable. And she's coming on and has so much to offer. And then on Wednesday, we have Dave and Jason, and then Thursday, Kelly and Jason, not doing Fridays through Sundays anymore. So we're going to compress all the value in 4 days. Terrence says, bravo. Well, that's great, Terrence. He's a wonderful guy. Check him out. Thank you, Kon. Thank you, audience. And we'll do it again in